Israel had a ceasefire with Hezbollah back in the end of 2024. Hezbollah have been honoring this ceasefire agreement, but those who haven't been honoring this agreement are, of course, the Israelis. Why are they not honoring it? And what is this campaign that they're looking to do now inside of Lebanon? Does this mean that we're heading towards an increased escalation? And how is that linked with the progress of the talks in Gaza and Benjamin Netanyahu's plans to potentially have a deal inside of the Gaza Strip? Because all of these things are connected together. So let's have a look at this report over here. The Israeli army reveals special ground operations in southern Lebanon amid continued pressure on Hezbollah. What is Israel saying about this operation, and is this a total departure from the ceasefire agreement? Not that Israel respected it at any point. Over 1,500 breaches, which, by the way, only brought the Lebanese authorities and the resistance in Lebanon and the senior politicians together. Why? Because although many people in Lebanon oppose, for their own reasons, Hezbollah as an organization, they have now showed everyone that, firstly, our support for Gaza wasn't with the intention of bringing total war on Lebanon, because this was our capability at the moment, and we believe that even if we went further, we wouldn't have necessarily prevented the genocide. But now they're showing everyone that, look, they started the war against us. We were only a supporting front to exhaust the army and take more of their forces to the north, expel the population, to apply pressure internally on the state to stop the genocide again in Gaza. But Israel then went on to an all-out war. Now Hezbollah are showing everyone that, look, we are not actually breaching anything. We are completely adhering to the ceasefire agreement. That led the Lebanese president to speak more about the breaches that are coming from Israel and the fact that there is no enforcement here, which is putting Hezbollah in a stronger position. Why? Because, well, what is the argument that anyone can have against them at any point? They did not start to drag Lebanon into war just out of a principled position to support the Palestinian resistance and to prevent or try and reduce the level, not prevent, because no one did prevent, reduce the level of intensity of the Israeli attacks in Gaza and the Gaza genocide by deploying more forces on the borders with Lebanon. Now Israel is conducting this ground operation. Well, what does Israel want from this ground operation? Israel is saying that this is a limited targeted ground operation. We're talking about small units invading an area of up to 1 kilometer from places like Zer'it or some of the Israeli villages in northern occupied Palestine, which means you're talking about hundreds of meters into Lebanese territory. So number one, we don't have a significant offensive. Number two, Israel is still already controlling 5 points in South Lebanon, which are only several hundred meters inside of Lebanese territories. That's not to undermine from the aggressive element of that or from the criminality of it, but of course to understand that there's still no huge operation going on. Then that is another attempt coming from Benjamin Netanyahu as well to divert the attention slightly from Gaza, because he will have to make some concessions, or he has already decided on making certain concessions, and focus a little bit more on Lebanon. He's done that before. He went on an all-out war against Lebanon before, when the criticism against him for the genocide in Gaza reached peak levels with protests in Israel, including hundreds of thousands of people asking to stop the war and have an all-out deal. He went to an all-out war with Lebanon, only for later on to reach a ceasefire with Lebanon to create a precedent that would be acceptable by those in his government who always say that we don't want a ceasefire, to reach a temporary ceasefire inside of the Gaza Strip afterwards, by saying that, look, we already had this ceasefire in Lebanon, now we have a ceasefire in Gaza too. And also there are links between the two ceasefires. There were already reports that Hezbollah at the time agreed based on an Israeli agreement of a ceasefire in Gaza within 2 months, which happened within 2 months after the ceasefire in Lebanon. But of course, Israel later on broke that ceasefire. This is what we understand from this operation. Why? Because, well, number one, Israel has no capability on the ground. They don't have the capability to go with ground forces to occupy territories. They put in all of their full force in Gaza and they failed. They will not be winning in Lebanon. They cannot win in Lebanon. They cannot reach a stage in Lebanon where they go and occupy territories and be victorious over Hezbollah or the Lebanese resistance. It's not going to happen. The Lebanese resistance is capable. The Lebanese people are capable, and they have a very similar mentality. Of course, Gaza has a special place, but they have a similar mentality in the resistance against Israel and how they view all of these moves coming from Israel standing up against them. Will Hezbollah respond to Israel? Unlikely with this type of attack. Why? Because from Hezbollah's perspective and from Hezbollah's understanding, they would be serving Israel by doing that now, especially seeing as it hasn't reached a level, according to them, of an increased all-out war against Lebanon. And again, from Hezbollah's moves, by the way, they are proving to their opponents internally and to the people who even have doubt in Hezbollah that no, we're still fine and we are still adhering, and they're breaching. That will add more pressure on the other side, and that will give more legitimacy to Hezbollah in Lebanon in case things reach an escalation. And there was more clarification coming from the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Sheikh Naim Qasim, who had an interview that was recorded on June 11th, so before even the Iranian exchange and a short Iranian war with Israel, where he spoke about the progress of the war with Israel and the view of Hezbollah, because many people are saying that, Hezbollah have been weakened and they don't have capabilities and they don't have a capacity anymore. And he chose not to speak about the capabilities of Hezbollah in a way to give information to the enemy, neither with percentage or people or military capabilities. All that he said is that we are ready and we are ready now. But they're clearly making that decision to adhere to the ceasefire because, according to his reasoning, even if there was an increased escalation with Israel, both sides would be striving towards a ceasefire afterwards, but that would mean they would have more destruction. Again, according to the understanding or the reading of the Secretary General of Hezbollah. So they have the capacity, they're making a strategic choice, and anything to do with Israel carrying out operations in southern Lebanon, or for example, holding some weapons, getting some weapons or certain points, he said that these are the areas that they saw. And these areas are only in the southern part of Lebanon, south of the Litani River. And Lebanon is very big. Again, not clarifying, but hinting that, number one, this is only what they saw. Number two, that's not everything. Number three, we still have all of Lebanon. He also spoke about the resistance and the arms of the resistance in a way, where some people are talking about this army, saying that is not something to be discussed unless it's part of an all-out strategy coming from Lebanon, because the Lebanese resistance is the strength of Lebanon and they are keeping their arms for the sake of Lebanon. And he has a background in that, and he has a backing to his statements, because it was Hezbollah and the Lebanese resistance who liberated Lebanese territories. Hezbollah and the Lebanese resistance are the ones who have a deterrence and a strategic capability against Israel, not the Lebanese army with merely any policing capabilities or equipment to try and fight Israel, and who are already exposed, unlike Hezbollah. According to him, that is there to save Lebanon and to protect Lebanon, and it will only be discussed internally, and no one has a right to speak about the arms of the resistance, because those who are looking to harm Lebanon internally and make it weak and vulnerable in the face of any Israeli aggression that comes against Lebanon.